All right, welcome to the Explainer. Today we're going to tackle one of the absolute cornerstones of cybersecurity certifications, CompTIA Security Plus.
So, to really get why this cert matters, we're not going to start with some dry textbook definition. No, we're going to start with a disaster. And forget about some Hollywood movie scene of a hacker furiously typing to break through a massive firewall. The real story of a modern breach? It's often a lot quieter and way more clever.
It all kicks off with a single, super convincing email. You know the type. This is what we call social engineering. See, the attacker isn't hacking a machine, they're hacking the human, tricking an employee into handing over their keys to the kingdom. They turn your own people into an entry point without them even knowing it. But that's just one way in.
In another scenario, the attacker doesn't even have to fool an employee. Instead, they get a key from a company you already trust, a supply chain partner. By sneaking malicious code into a piece of software that your company uses every single day, they just piggyback their way right inside, completely bypassing a lot of your main defenses. And sometimes, the scariest vulnerabilities aren't from some genius hacker or a compromised partner. They're from a simple internal mistake. You know, an oversight, a default setting that someone forgot to change. It's often not some brilliant complex exploit, but just a simple misconfiguration, like an unsecured port that leaves the front door wide open.
So look, it doesn't matter how they got their foot in the door, through a person, a partner, or a port. The next move is always the same. They escalate their privileges. They go from being a regular user to an administrator. And once that happens, the entire network is basically theirs to explore, and they often do it for weeks or even months before anyone has a clue.
So, as you can see, this wasn't just one thing going wrong. It was a total cascade. Every step in that attack represents a different kind of security breakdown. So let's do a little post-mortem here and see exactly how the Security Plus domains give us the blueprint to defend against this very scenario.
And this is where Security Plus comes in. The whole certification is built around these 5 core pillars of knowledge you see right here. Think of it this way. Each one is specifically designed to stop one of those points of failure we just walked through. This isn't just abstract theory, it's a direct countermeasure to how real-world attacks actually happen.
All right, let's really connect the dots here. Remember that sneaky phishing email? Well, that initial breach? It only worked because the attacker played on human psychology. This falls right smack in the middle of the Threats, Vulnerabilities, and Mitigations domain. This is where you learn to spot not just malware, but all the different social engineering tricks attackers pull. It's about knowing their playbook so you can shut it down.
And hey, what about that wide-open server port we mentioned? That's just a classic failure of design, right? That's where the security architecture domain comes into play. This is the blueprint for prevention. It's all about building secure systems from the very beginning, hardening servers, setting secure baselines, and just making sure those doors are locked by default.
Now this is a big one. It perfectly shows why the largest domain is security operations. I mean, why did the attacker hang out undetected for so long? Simple. Nobody was listening to the network. This domain is all about that day-to-day, in-the-trenches vigilance, digging through logs, hunting for threats, and having a solid plan to respond the second something looks wrong. It's about catching the bad guy before they can do the real damage. Okay, so finally, let's get to the real root cause of this whole mess. Why did the phishing email work in the first place? No user training. Why was the server misconfigured? No security policy. See the pattern? That's exactly what the Security Program Management and Oversight domain is all about. It's about building the rules and the culture that prevent these problems from ever happening. Okay, so now that we've seen how every single one of these domains maps directly to a real-world disaster, what does having this cert actually mean for you as a professional out in the field? Well, for starters, it means you're joining a global community of over 700,000 professionals. I mean, think about that. This isn't just a piece of paper, it's proof that you speak a common, fundamental language of security that's understood all over the world. And make no mistake, this is not about memorizing theory. CompTIA themselves say it best. The whole point is to prove you can take action. It's about looking at a situation, seeing the risks, and knowing exactly what to do to fix it. So why do hiring managers love to see this on a resume? Well, for one, it's vendor neutral. That means they know you get the core concepts of security, not just how to click buttons on one company's firewall. And the fact that it's approved for U.S. Department of Defense directives, that's huge. It's a stamp of approval that you meet a really tough standard and that you've got the essential skills they need from day one.
All right, let's switch gears and talk about the exam itself.
because, understanding how you're going to be tested is half the battle.
Okay, here are the numbers. You get 90 minutes for up to 90 questions. You do the math. That's a minute a question at most. Time management is everything. You got to be fast and accurate to hit that 750 passing score. The pressure is on.
But here's the kicker. It's not just a multiple-choice test. The exam throws what they call performance-based questions, or PBQs, at you. These are interactive simulations, and honestly, they're the real test of what you can actually do.
And that difference is just massive. Multiple choice tests if you can recognize something. PBQs, they test if you can reason. They drop you into a realistic problem and basically say, okay, smarty pants, fix this.
So you might find yourself in a simulated environment, having to actually configure firewall rules, or dig through log files to find an attacker, or even drag and drop security tools onto a network diagram. These are the kinds of tasks you'd actually be doing on the job.
Okay, listen up, because this is probably the single most important piece of exam advice I can give you. These PBQs, they're usually right at the start of the exam, and they are designed to eat your time. The winning strategy is to read the instructions, flag it for review, and skip it. Go crush all the multiple choice questions, bank those points, and then go back to the PBQs with whatever time you have left. Seriously, don't let them derail your entire exam.
So, knowing all that about the structure, how in the world do you prioritize your study time? Well, you don't have to guess. CompTIA literally gives you the blueprint for what's important.
Okay, just look at this chart for a second. See those two biggest bars? Security operations at 28% and threats and vulnerabilities at 22%. You add those up, that's half the exam right there. The test is literally telling you where you need to spend the majority of your hands-on practice time.
Look, at the end of the day, Security Plus isn't just a test you cram for. It's a whole framework for thinking like a defender. It directly connects to that chain of failures we talked about, from the human mistake all the way to the broken architecture. It gives you the foundational skills you need to build a career protecting our digital world. So, the blueprint is right in front of you. The real question is, are you ready to start building?